Yep.
Recording is on for August 30th.
Good evening, everybody. This is our regular meeting. It's postponed from August 16th. And so the August 30th, 6 p.m. is our meeting. If you could all stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'm going to do roll call just a little bit differently. I'm going to introduce everybody, and only because we are missing Director Lincoln, and we postponed the meeting from the 16th because Terry has been sick, and we thought he would be better at this point. He's not. And so he's missing. And then we had one member that was going to had a little bit of a conflict, and we weren't sure if he was going to make it to the meeting on the 16th. So we decided at the last minute to go ahead and cancel it because we were afraid we weren't going to have a quorum. So we have on my right Director McVeigh, Scott McVeigh, Director Pam Beaver, myself, Beverly Fickus, and our staff, General Manager Paul Kelly, and our bookkeeper accountant, Melissa Tinney.
Yes, and our admin assistant, Kayla Fox, is homesick today. That's why I made sure there's batteries in our recorder here.
So currently it's open time and public comment. If anybody has anything they would like to talk about, please come up. That's not on the agenda this evening.
Hi, Sandy Winters. I represent Firewise. No meeting for September. Everybody's gonna be out there, honey. We have something in the works for October. It'll be really interesting. As soon as we get it finalized, I'll advertise it.
Question for you, please. Aren't the hours and sheets due in by November?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you're working.
At the normal meeting in November?
No, we won't have a meeting in November or December because of the holidays. So
Okay.
October will probably be our last one for this year.
So where can they be turned in? If
Bonnie
somebody-
Burgers.
Bonnie Burgers, there
Yeah.
you go.
Or bring it to the meeting in October.
Okay, just so the public knows this.
And we had a really interesting meeting. We had some good speakers.
Thank you.
New possibilities for grants.
It's much nicer.
Lots of good, interesting stuff in the works, so at our October meeting, be sure and attend it.
Thanks, Sandy. Anyone else? Okay.
I'm gonna be selling corn at the farmer's market tomorrow. If anybody wants corn, come out to Igo.
The consent agenda.
Madam Chair, just real quick, we're still working on June and July meeting minutes with all of the activities in the office, mostly with delinquencies and shut-offs and everything else, and changing over to new software. So, also just to note that in the transaction detail report, the check signers had asked for a copy of the Bureau Reclamation payment recap. So I thought I would just quickly describe that for those. It's always a fun little challenging thing. The way the Bureau works is you, the first of a month, you actually pay for the next month's schedule. So in other words, this was the August 1st payment recap, so it's basically September schedule. We were scheduled to get 235 acre feet from the Bureau, and then you take your last month's, July's actual, and you subtract that from your scheduled payment. So that's why you get, we had scheduled and paid for 290 acre feet in July. We actually took 116 acre feet of Bureau water, and that's why we get a negative 174, and we actually get a credit for that, because we already paid for it. Same thing with the, July, actual for both irrigation and M&I. And then what you do at the bottom is you actually pay only the actual, you don't prepay your scheduled, restoration and Trinity Public Utilities District amounts.
Yeah.
Yep. I was gonna use it in my GM report. Yesterday, I just received from the Bureau the FY 24, starting in October, right? Restoration fund payments, and they look like they've gone up 8%, so we may need to go and change that. So the 1202 for irrigation is gonna go to $13 even, and the M&I, the 2405 is gonna go to $25.99 even. And I'll send that letter out to the board.
That'll be effective October 1st or November 1st?
Well, I sent an email to ask, yes, effective October 1st, but I would assert that we don't pay it until our November payment, because October 1st, we're prepaying, we're prepaying November scheduled water, and we're paying, September actual water, which should still be this. So when we hit November 1, we would be paying the new rate for the October actual.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Very good. With Chair Fickus's permission, a question for you. We are coming up tomorrow, the first 6 months of the water year. And we'd like to be able to see what the acre foot usage has been and compare it to what was estimated for the year, to see if there's any adjustments that need to be made to the HCF charges, along with the things like you just spoke of. And it'd be nice to have that information by the September 12th Finance Committee meeting.
Yeah, well, there's a combination of things. First, triggering an HCF charge based on actual usage would be definitely a policy call. But the need for an HCF change in the fall based on what I just described, so you can combine those. I am working on a spreadsheet for the September 12th meeting that has what we reported to the Bureau as water usage, what we actually have as revenue, or what we reported as revenue on our P&L, as well as trying to compare that to what we used last year, or what we thought we would use.
Is there a percentage factor in there for leaks and breaks?
No, not necessarily.
So it looks from this recap that we used 313 acre feet, if my math is correct.
Okay.
But did we use any McConnell water?
Yes. Yes, there was 50 acre feet of water used, McConnell water on this month in July.
Okay.
So it actually was, about 360 acre feet.
Okay, all right.
But remember, we pay McConnell on a separate invoice.
Yeah, so it doesn't, yes.
But we still need to track it for our historic average on M&I.
Well, yeah, it's been tracked, and that's one of the other modifications that Melissa and I worked out with, the Bureau, is that, you know, since we've been here, our reporting to the Bureau for water through the treatment plant has been, this is how much came through the treatment plant, this is how much went to Centerville, this is how much came to the district, and of that, this is how much is M&I, and this is how much is irrigation or ag water. Last year, all that came to us through our treatment plant was McConnell water. It wasn't there. So figuring out how to make sure it's broken out on the Bureau report is what we figured out. There was actually a purchase area there that we
Can do that.
Melissa, you've got hit with a lot of things, thank you.
So I had, a question on, except is it, I think that's part of it, as far as the profit and loss that you provided.
Yeah, I thought, if I can interrupt, and I apologize. I thought we had flagged a couple of invoices.
We did, but that was,
They're gonna come out next month, is that
Yeah.
what it was? Okay. It's tough to remember when you flag them because we're in all the time signing.
Yeah.
And the other thing, yes, I appreciate that, Director McVeigh, because I, as Melissa will recall, I said, are you sure this is the only one they flagged? Because I remember seeing other ones, but you flagged ones for July, not for June or whatever it was, or, I mean.
You mean
August.
August,
not for
after
July.
the 14th.
So after the 14th. So, well, those will be in the September meeting.
That's fine.
I guess one of the biggest concerns that, in looking over this, as far as, we spent more money than we brought in.
The June one?
No, this is July.
July.
And I think the other one was June, and it was terrible also. But part of that is part of the grant money that we have taken out.
Yeah, so the July, and, maybe Melissa can.
And the Win Act, right?
Yes, 50,000 on the Win Act.
And so, two things. One, it's even more exacerbated on the June, right? Because we had an extra 50, we had 100,000 on the Win Act, because we figured we might as well get as caught up as we can to make sure that we don't lose that contract. And we can talk about that later, but there was that and the other one. This one here, we had 50,000, and you'll see that there's actually a little bit higher treatment, the actuators, the actuator costs actually came through, and those were a little higher than we had thought. But 50,000 alone puts you way over the minus 8,000 that we had there. And then we also made, our first payment on that new software.
Yeah.
And so that, definitely, that was, hit it all in that 1 month.
One item I had a question on was item 15,005. Is that income, general taxes, general property?
Yeah, we earned,
18,000.
15000. 18,669.
That doesn't seem to gel with what we normally get from the state.
This was a secondary payment that they made to us because they reassessed their numbers and came up with extra that they needed to give
Oh,
us
so
for the
they-
higher payment.
Okay,
So this is
yeah.
just additional revenue.
Correct.
Excellent.
So for some of you who aren't here, before or all the time, we got a new computer program that took us from the dinosaur ages into reality. And, that's been a lot what Melissa's doing, and then we had to change over all of the, budget and everything. So it did kind of cost us quite a bit of money, but it will save us in the long run.
Well, it'll be more effective. I do want to mention, I'm gonna wait on the punchline on how well we've done on our delinquent accounts and,
Yes, wait on that.
Yeah.
But, there is some increased revenue showing up in here. If you take the 144,270 divided by 5711, you come up with 2,500 accounts. So, so we are getting more, based on that. But again, because we're still under the old Fry software, we've got people that have made a $10,000 payment on a delinquent account.
Yes.
When we put that into our account, according to our staff, we have no idea really how it's attributing to which of our fees, how much, so if it, it's like getting, 150 base rates all at once, right? And it's not necessarily attributing it to the water sales as correctly. And so that's one reason why you're seeing in some cases the filter plant repayment. If you divide that by $7.55, you have 2,900 accounts. Obviously, we didn't have 2,900 accounts.
Yeah.
One of those big payments made multiple payments onto that one.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it didn't roll down to the Win Act one, because actually when you divide that, it's like 2,400 accounts. So-
Well, if I did my math right, your filter plant repayment was at 100%, 110% collected, and the wind act was at 113% collected, so. Now, obviously, those are because of penalties and deferred payments or whatever. But,
And then just because you'll see it when we kind of look at the year-end June 30th later in the agenda, but, you know, on that, you'll notice that we're short $32,000 from Centerville, or $30,000
yes,
from
Yeah.
I
Centerville.
noticed
We
that.
did
Well,
notice that.
here's a Centerville, which is basically a multi-month payment.
Yeah, we did notice that, it looked like they paid it in August
Yeah.
versus,
Yeah.
or July
And
versus June 30th.
it just, that's why it's good to look at things on a monthly basis, but it's all, sometimes better to look on them quarterly, and that's why
Oh, yes.
quarterly reviews and budget things. You know, the other thing I'll mention it now, but I was gonna mention it at our later agenda item. We're also trying to work on ways to show other things, like our balance sheet and other liabilities, things like that.
Okay,
Two other items. Now, I know we ran about a $6,800 negative on a month, but we have so many things in there that offset that. The WINAG 50,000. I'm assuming on page 2, line item 50415, the property and liability insurance, that's an annual payment, the $16,045.
I
So
think
you
it's in our
could-
budget for 17 something.
Right, but you divide that up by 12, and our monthly would look better. I'm assuming LAFCO expense down near the bottom, 5725 is the same thing?
yes.
Yeah.
And monthly.
And again, I appreciate you bringing that up, yes, that's a yearly thing, it's not.
Once a year.
You won't see it later, that's why I better look at it quarterly. Now,
Yes.
Chair Fickus and I were at the LAFCO meeting in which they had basically had like a 2% increase in berries, but we actually got a significantly higher, cost, I'd say, you know, $1,200 more than I had projected, because they base all the special districts on a proportionate share of their revenue reported to the state controller's office from 2021 or something like that. I don't know, it's like this years in the back. So I had before I paid the bill here, I had interacted with them and got a confirmation. I not only owed it, but, you know, it doesn't, we were at the meeting, I did a little 2% increase onto my fee, and that's what I put in my budget. How come it's gonna be more?
Yeah.
So, well, that's because you calculated it wrong.
Oops.
But thank you, Director McGay, you pointed out a lot of those little anomalies about the July.
When we look at these activity reports, we have to take that as just a snapshot. Because I've run too many businesses where you get hit with heavy bills one month, and it looks like, oh, we lost all kinds. No, we didn't. Annualize them out, and we actually were ahead quite a bit.
Any other questions on the consent agenda? From anybody? Okay, need a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we, approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Director Beaver and a second by Director McVeigh to accept the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Madam Chair, as we go into, old business, the Bureau account reconciliation, there really is not much to report, except that, they are going to send us a report on what our outstanding WINAC balance is before the end of the year. I have it, I can report it to you, but I want to hear from them. And then the other thing, I already mentioned it, the Bureau sent us an updated FY24 restoration charge. And then the other thing is, we're working with them on, because actually having water from the Bureau wasn't available last year, because you prepay, that's one reason why I kind of described it before, how does that work as the water year gets down to the end? If we have a negative, in other words, if we have a credit balance, will they roll that into the next water year, or do we need to like reconcile it in January and February? So kind of figuring that out. Plus, as I mentioned here, we wanted to make sure we scheduled the McConnell water. We knew, we wanted to schedule 100 acre feet of it in the previous fiscal year to push costs around, but also to make sure we got to our free water.
Right.
So, they've been very helpful with that.
Are we close to our free water?
I believe the free water is all of the October and November water, 168 acre feet.
Great.
Okay.
Free in quotes,
Yeah.
nothing's ever free.
Well, what happened with that, for those, there's a few that don't know, the water year is March 1st through February, got that correct? February. And then the Bureau comes out in January, 1st of February, and says, we're not sure how much water we're gonna give you, so we don't wanna be where we were, 2 years ago, where we only got 29 HCF per customer, and had to rely totally on the well water. So they came out and said, we're not sure, you better secure some water. Well, McConnell water is extremely expensive, $250 an acre foot versus ours is $50 an acre foot for water. So the board agreed to purchase just how much, 500 acre feet of McConnell water. And then, of course, by the end of March, the Bureau comes out and says, okay, you get 100%, or maybe it was April. So they knew what we had done, and so I think McConnell felt a little bit remiss or concerned, and decided to give us an extra 168 acre feet of water at no charge. So it took the bite out of it just a little bit. So that's our free water we're talking about.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, we 500 times 250 is X. We divide that by 668, it's X minus that, so we're actually getting it less than 250 an acre foot.
Right. Which is good.
Uh,
Okay, so
Alright.
where we're at now is the applications for vacant director positions. And I do not see our third applicant here, which is Matthew, I guess. So,
Just make sure. Matthew Martin in the audience.
no, and I called too, and I just got an answering thing. So what we will do is we will start out just what's in order here. So our first person is Charles Detherow. And did I say that correctly, Charles?
Yeah, it's Detherow.
Detherow?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I go by Chuck.
Okay.
Not another Chuck.
And come on up, Chuck, and tell us a little bit about yourself, and we have a couple questions for you. We're fairly harmless. Oh, you wanna do,
Where do you
podium?
want me?
Podium,
Oh, podium.
preferably.
Sure. So my name's Chuck. I've been living in Happy Valley for about 30 years. I live out off of Coyote now at the end. My oldest daughter, we moved here just before she was born, and she's 30. We're off of Flowers then. So I've been buying water from Clear Creek a while. So then, I'm a forester. I graduated from Berkeley, 87. And I'm a licensed forester, certified by the state. I'm a registered professional forester. I'm also a TSP for the Natural Resource Conservation Service and Forestry. And now I've worked for the timber industry for about 30 years. And now I'm working for the local Resource Conservation District, Western Chaska RCD, on their fire prevention programs mainly, in their jurisdiction, which is everything in Shasta County east of the Hatcher Pass and the crest. So I cover quite a bit of ground. It just depends on what we're doing. I worked on a project right here in Happy Valley for like 6 months, the China Bulge Field Break, which starts at Wind River Casino, sort of over on 273, and goes up the ridge between Clear Creek, the first ridge to the south, and it heads all the way over to the water towers there. And we got crews in there. It's our second phase. So originally it was put in 2019, I believe, and then COVID happened, so nothing happened for a while. And then once things started going in, we got a grant to do some maintenance work, which includes redoing it, or cutting stuff, piling stuff, getting rid of the dead, taking care of the stuff that's grown up. And we're also herbiciding parts of it for the landowners who agree to herbicide. It crosses, probably crosses about 100 landowners, maybe more. So we have to get their permission to work on the property before we do anything. And it's a fully funded grant there from Cal Fire. So I worked on that. We also had a project out there at Veteran Cemetery, another fuel reduction project. They haven't done anything with it yet, but we were the lead agent there for Seawell. We put that together. We also worked out there at the dump where they did the burn. We had to file some paperwork before they did the burn. So we work in, we do a lot of work with Cal Fire, the fire prevention stuff.
What is your desire for the board, or what do you envision for?
Right, I'll just backtrack a little. When, I don't know, years ago, I was on the school board there, and then I had to work out of town, so I dropped off the board. I would like to just help out in the community. And this, being on the board here, the water district, that's right in my background and what I do. Clear Creek, the WSRCD also does a lot of work in Clear Creek itself on the restoring the salmon. And so I'm somewhat involved with that too.
With the TMC, the Trinity River, what do they call that?
Right, but they have a recovery group that has some initials that the RCD's been working with for 20, 30 years. They were part of taking out Seltzer Dam. We're still working on Clear Creek there's a, for the acid canal comes across down by Wind River, there's a pipe that's an impediment for salmon. They have some sort of structure to help the salmon get around it. We're working on something to improve that, but it's definitely slowing the salmon down. And then once they get stockpiled, and there are bears down in there, and the bears know the salmon have to pull up there, so it's a threat for the salmon, and then it cuts off. I mean, they can get around it, but we're working on something so it's much easier for them to get around.
Director McVeigh?
Oh, I have a few questions, yeah. What do you know about the water district?
Well, I've been here for 30 years. I read the newsletters and I follow some of the stuff online there. When I first moved out here, we had the ag water, and that was really nice. We had a little farm, and we sold some livestock and produced some vegetables, and we got the ag rate, and that was really good there. And then that has been weaned. It's not as easily available right now as it once was there. And I also like the Happy Valley Farm Trail. They tried to develop for a while, which is pretty much not existent anymore there. And so for me, what I see now is that the lines keep breaking in spots, and that would be an emphasis I would like to work on, is slowly getting the lines repaired or new lines put in so that they don't break as often. They seem to break in certain spots.
There are
And
stretches.
so maybe
Yes.
working on those first.
Okay, have you visited the district website? You say
I
in the
have
last
visited
year.
the district website, yes,
In the last year?
yes.
Okay.
I visited today. I have
Did you?
the agenda on my tablet.
Did you review the board packet?
I did.
He just said he did, yeah.
Well, he said he had the agenda.
I reviewed the packet, it was, because I wanted to see who else was interested in the position of the board. And then a lot of it is the financial records that you got for the last month. A lot of the
Yes.
packet is that, it's a fairly lengthy packet.
I don't know,
They
seems to be
usually are.
average. That's about average, 80, 90
Yeah.
pages. Yeah, so that leads me to, with your job, do you have time to do the research, to read all this
Right,
material?
I do have
Come to a
time.
board meeting prepared to,
I do have the time to do it there. I saw y'all had a board meeting during the week, what, a month ago, 2 months ago, just during the day. It was,
standing committee or
If
special?
it's a standing committee, occasionally we do.
yeah, and my schedule is flexible there. Right now, I work out of my house. I have an office at the RCD, which is across from the SPI mill there on 273, but we're still working under the COVID rules, I guess. And so we can work out of our house, and I just have to put in a certain number of hours per week, and I can do that any way that I need to.
Okay,
Dan, questions?
No, he covered it pretty much what
So I have one more question, but Scott, you've got any?
just a comment, if you're not chosen tonight, would you be willing to put an application in to be a member of the community serving on one of the standing committees?
Possibly
Okay.
there.
I would like to know how you deal with conflict.
I am pretty, I like to listen to both sides and come up with a resolution there that everybody can agree with, or even though, there's some give and take there. I don't really like what's going on with the federal government right now, or even the state government, where people just can't agree.
I guess, let me be a little bit more specific. Let's say as a board member, you have an issue with one of your fellow board members. How would you resolve that conflict?
Well, I know that 3 board members can't speak together because of the Brown Act, but I believe 2 can. So we could work it out, together as 2.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay, all right, thank you.
return.
Thank you for
Vice
applying.
Chair.
We appreciate you applying.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Logan Johnston.
Come on down.
Come on down. Show us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you said, my name is Logan Johnston. I currently work as the log yard supervisor at the Trinity River Lumber Mill, with the lumber company in Weaverville. I work for Frank Strickbauer and the Strickbauer Group. I manage about a crew of 10 operators primarily, and 1 ground personnel and day-to-day operations. I'm in charge of overseeing the intake of all logs, the unloading of all logs. I assist in the scaling of logs, so for reporting inventory, and then my guys are responsible to go through, pick up loads once they've been inventoried, and then we store them, whether that's in long-term storage in our high decks, which we irrigate, or if it's in hot decks ready to go to sawmill. I'm also responsible for overseeing the operators that feed the mill on a daily basis, so there's a lot of communication I have with the supervisors in the mill, plant manager, things like that, so on and so forth. In my position, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I'm a certified log scaler. I can operate. I can do things that need to be done to keep us going on a daily basis. And I enjoy it. It keeps me busy. Every day is a little bit different, but to this point, I've really enjoyed that job. I mentioned in my application that I do have some irrigation experience because of that position. I also have some water quality experience, for lack of a better phrasing, but we use on an annual basis between 225 and 175 acre feet for irrigation purposes. There in Weaverville, we irrigate the log decks from the moment we can put water on them until we're tearing them down and put them in the mill. And so that's just it helps to ensure log quality. The wetter that log can stay, the higher quality the outer portion of the log is, increases overrun, increases yields for the sawmill. So I've spent time climbing log decks, running rainbird sprinklers, maintaining pumps, and on a monthly basis, I record our water intake as well as the level of our storage ponds. Everything, once it comes into my log yard, is now effectively wastewater and it has to be contained. And so I have to monitor the levels of our ponds on a daily basis. Getting buzzed over here. I have to monitor the levels of our ponds on a daily basis and just ensure that we're not going to have a overflow into the environment. It needs to all be contained, it needs to be transferred and stored properly. And the good Lord willing, no big rains, we keep it all inside the yard. So, I'm a 2017 graduate of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I stayed on and was enrolled in the Master's in Education program in the single subject teaching credential program in agriculture. I student taught, decided that maybe that wasn't for me after 6 months. And at that point, I moved home and I got offered the position that I have now at Trinity River. And it didn't start out that way, I kind of worked my way up, but that was always the direction that I was going. So in 2020, my wife, who also is a Cal Poly graduate and did complete the Master's in Single Subject Credentialing program and is the ag teacher at Corning, moved here. And we started renting the house that we're now in Happy Valley on Hope Gate Lane. And we eventually purchased that property in 2021, got married in 2021, and we've been living there ever since. So we've really enjoyed our time here. It's a great community that I'd like to become more involved in. Thank you.
So I think that answered the question I had, your involvement, you're just wanting to be part of the community.
Yeah.
Reasoning for.
Yeah, so in my application as well, I mentioned a few things, but in my youth and in college as well, service was a large part of my identity. The things that I enjoyed to do the most often revolved around service or my involvement in service organizations. And it's something that since moving here, working in Weaverville and living in Happy Valley, I just haven't had roots in service. I view this as a way to get involved in something that's interesting to me and also serves the community.
Bringing that up, going back and forth to Weaverville, and is that going to be too hard on you and your family? To me, that's really important.
So as you can see, my wife's pregnant. We're expecting.
Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what you saw.
I did eat a big dinner before I came.
We're expecting our first son in November, and so I've had to give that some thought over the last couple months. And at this point, I believe that I can do it. It's not going to interfere to the point that we need to make that change. But if that time comes, then I'll be prepared to make a transition. That being said, I really enjoy my job. I really enjoy the company that I work for. Everyone there at Trinity River is great people. They've taken extremely good care of me. And I'm going to do what I can to stay there as long as I can for them.
And your wife backs this?
Do you have
Yeah.
I have a lot of hobbies, so that's something to do.
Oh, okay, my turn, thank you. Some of the same questions I asked our other candidate. Have you visited the district website?
Prior to applying, I had not, I'll tell you that. I have a few times since. I reviewed the director packet prior to the cancellation of the last meeting, perused it briefly again today just to look into Chuck.
Nothing wrong with that.
And see how that was going. But I was able to make it through most of the material. I did cover everything that you discussed in the consent agenda. To a point that I could understand a slight amount of it. I didn't understand the McConnell water portion whatsoever. I still don't understand where that comes from. I'm assuming the McConnell Foundation has some form of water that they sell.
Water rights.
Yeah, I got
It's
water
also
rights.
down over there.
Yeah,
Okay. So there were things that,
lots to learn.
yes, absolutely. And I completely recognize willing to do some learning on that, because I am as green as it comes when it comes to the policies that you have to handle and deal with, so that I would gladly learn as much as I could.
Okay, what do you know about the district?
I know that we,
Kind of answered that.
Kind of answered a little bit, he's been here 3 years.
yeah,
Did you know there was a community committee meeting?
only because of my reading of the packet previously. But
Oh.
prior to that, I did not.
That's
And so this is my first real involvement in the district. So I apologize for submitting an application, having never been involved.
No,
Again,
We are grateful you did.
I'm very willing to learn and become involved.
So, same question I asked Chuck. If you're not chosen tonight, would you be willing to submit an application to be, as an example, a community member of the Ag Standing
Yeah.
Committee?
Absolutely, because a portion of this, my motivation in this is to exert change that I think needs to come about. And if I'm not willing to do the requisite things to make that happen, then.
Okay, you sent that fly up here.
Good.
You're welcome.
What do you think you would bring to the district? From past experience, education, life experience, anything?
Well, somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I have taken quite a few ag courses, quite a few courses relating to irrigation, to water rights. I still have that material that I can review, that I can pull up, and hopefully become a little bit more of a subject matter expert on the topic. But I do like to think of myself as a non-confrontational person. I'm a great communicator. I like to hear what other people have to say. I like to hear other perspectives, and then do my best to contribute to that in a positive way.
So to follow that up, then, because that goes right into the conflict question, how do you handle conflict? So if you have a conflict with one of the board members, how do you handle that?
Just like that.
Comes by, I'll get it. Conflict.
No, I think it would just be another opportunity to sit down with a fellow board member and discuss our differences. And obviously, through the Brown Act, we can't do that with a third in terms of mediation, but I would approach them, offer parlay essentially, and on simple terms, and attempt to have a conversation to resolve the issue.
We're pretty mellow, you know, we've been, all four of us, current board members, were on the HVCC committee
Mhm.
back 3 years ago. So we have a history of, you know, fighting things with the district when things were going wrong. And, let's not say fight the district, we,
It was a fight.
Prior amendment.
So we, you know, there were issues that we had to resolve. So we're all pretty good about knowing our little quirks and our little,
Right.
you know, we all have them. We're all gonna say things that might irritate somebody and.
Yeah, in terms of communication, I manage 10 individuals that are entirely different and have a level of expertise that puts them in a position to express their opinions very aggressively at times, and very precisely. And I've been able to, in the past few years in my role, learn how to manage these individuals in a way that I can tell how I need to approach them, I can tell what needs to be done to motivate them, to work around what are going to be their hot button issues, the things that I know will prompt them and provoke them to get the results that we want for our crew to work as successfully as we can.
Any other questions? Scott?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Any comments from the floor on any of the candidates or applicants?
Any other comments?
Yeah, no? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. I just want to comment and say thank you to both of you, applying. This is not a secret vote, so it will be just open here, kind of a discussion. Do I feel that both of you are qualified to hold down this board position? I do. A lot of it just takes a lot of homework, just more reading and that kind of stuff to, bring yourself up. I would suggest reading minutes, whoever gets selected, read past minutes. They go back to 2017 on the website. That's a real good start to get a feel of what the district was like and the way the district is going now. So that was my comment to you both. I appreciate so much that you put forth the effort to apply. So.
Yes, both of them.
Yeah, both of you. So, okay, board.
It's a tough choice.
It is a tough
I think they're both qualified.
They are. So this is gonna be difficult because we believe in both of you. We truly do. And we do not have our minds made up, so it's a toss-up on who we select. I don't,
I understand where you're coming from.
I'm gonna say this, Chuck, don't be offended by this, but I think the board needs young blood.
I don't think we can say that.
Nope.
Yeah.
No age discrimination.
There you go.
Oh.
So don't say
Okay.
that.
We're getting real good. We got your back, Chuck.
I just,
This guy was the president of the Chapter Historical Society.
Really, Sandy?
The one you didn't show. Dave Scott lives out in Igo.
No, that's where he works.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So.
We have to take a hard look at both of them and see who might be the best fit and
wait a
encourage.
second, Jackie has something to say.
Oh, I'm just gonna say, do we know if how bad Terry is? Is there a possibility that we may end up needing?
That's future, nothing we can deal with tonight.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
But just a thought for,
yeah, we're hoping he's getting better, but he's out of the hospital. So,
right.
But,
Yeah.
But not a lot better.
but not a lot
No,
better.
he isn't, yeah.
We can't address that tonight.
Okay, so,
This is us talking.
yeah, this is us talking.
I violated the ground.
Yeah.
That's just ringing.
I see strength and weaknesses with both candidates.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, but it takes you guys to make a motion, but we can't go wrong with either one of you, okay? We cannot go wrong with either one of you, so.
I am slightly, as a board member, a little prejudiced towards anybody with ag experience. I run the ag standing committee, so of course, there's that little bit in my mind that says, oh, that'd be a good addition. Or possibly even,
Put on the ag committee.
put on the ag committee and turn it over in a few years. I'm getting long in the tooth. It's nice to see some other people a bit younger, so. Hey, I said me. I said me, it's not on me. You said it. Yeah, I know. But Chuck's younger than me too. I like both of their answers.
Yeah.
I do have, as much as I like the ag component, I have concerns about the younger person starting a family and working Weaverville.
You
No.
can say the Weaverville part.
Okay, Logan,
You
in
cannot
at a
say,
distance
you can't
and
say-
traveling to make meetings.
That's all you can say.
You're right,
You can't talk about family.
Thank you. Okay, so, but, those are some of my concerns. I have some past history with the other candidate, I know him, whether those are good or bad, it's just, so it's almost like I should have been, I don't need to recuse myself because there was no business dealings or anything. I'm kind of, in the middle.
Well, I like them both too. I I have to go with my gut, and I would nominate Logan.
So we have a nomination of Logan
Yeah,
Johnston.
I would defer a second on that so that we can discuss a little more if there's anything else we need to discuss. I don't wanna make a decision too quickly. I know we got a lot on the agenda to get through, but this is an important decision. And I wanna make sure that they both feel that they were, justly considered.
Right, I actually agree with you on that. I think you should take Logan because of his youth.
You can't.
Can't
say
say
that.
that.
We're all looking
I think that, because when I first moved out to Happy Valley, started a family, everything else, I wanted to get involved with the community, and that's why I was on the school board, did the soccer stuff and all of that stuff, so. Again, I agree that, we need some new blood.
There we go.
And
That
by the
works.
way,
Some new-
he's a member of the community, he can say that. So
Yeah.
go right ahead.
Oh, okay, okay, very good. New blood.
Well, they would both
at.
be
Caitlin
new,
has
but
something to say.
I was gonna say, work scheduling, hours wise, do you have any interference with like traveling back and forth? Like, do you have enough time getting off work to get over here for 6 o'clock meetings?
Yeah, I can make my schedule. The summertime is going to be the most difficult for that, but my boss understands that I want to be involved in things. I have some leeway in terms of coming and going. It shouldn't be an issue to be here for a 6 o'clock meeting. Well,
Once or twice a month?
right.
How about snow?
That does prove an issue sometimes.
All right, I'm gonna bring it back to the board though. You guys had your opportunity, I'm sorry.
good for you. Back to us, we have a motion.
Mm-hmm.
We've had comments from the public and the candidates, so I will go ahead and second the selection of Logan as a board member.
So I have a motion by Director Beaver to, recommend or appoint to the appointment of Logan Johnston for our new board director position. I have a second by Director McVeigh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Come on up.
Alrighty, congratulations.
I'm going to, yes, thank you, Chuck, so much.
Appreciate you.
Austin, that's
Yeah.
We'll contact you. We've got his phone
You're
number.
on my backup.
So I'm gonna swear at you a little bit.
Wait a minute, Madam
Okay.
Chair, yes, so just so people know, this is the opportunity to, provide the oath of office, not swear.
Okay, oath of office. Take the front.
It's in mine.
So come on up here, and we'll just do it this way. Do you want him to read that, or do you want him to read my sheet? I'll let him look at it here.
Go ahead, Eddie, just repeat after you with your sheet.
Yep, there's a sheet for you. So I would like you to raise your right hand.
Yep.
I state your name,
Logan Johnston.
do solemnly swear or affirm, repeat
Oh,
after me,
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution
that I will support and defend the Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Got to sign.
Not really. So this is just,
Say goodbye to your husband.
Do you want me to sign two spots?
just,
You can have
Once a month.
Just-
Yeah.
Bishop first.
Yeah, then okay, continuing on.
And, just a quick mention, Madam Chair, we are, working with our volunteer, we're putting together a nice big director's handbook that has all the information, so eventually we'll get that to you in the next month as well. And obviously, we'll get all your contact information, get you on our email list and all those other good elements. And,
Okay.
gentlemen, you're welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You bet. Madam Chair, I would just defend our packet size because it's large, because you all completed a whole bunch of policies, but all of them have to be approved by ordinance, so that's why it's a big packet size. So we're gonna get to that in a minute. Item 6C, which is the LAFCO Special District Member Vacancy and Nomination, as I brought to you at your last meeting. Really nothing for the board to do if they don't want to do anything. This was just an opportunity, if there was a member of our board that wished to be put forward for one or both of the seats that are currently open. Otherwise, it would take an action of the board that they can fill out. Otherwise, we would just wait for Jasper LAFCO to send us the ballots like they did last time.
Right.
So, was there any board member that was interested serving on LAFCO? No? Okay.
I've got 2 boards on it.
I was just gonna say, we got a lot going on, so.
Yeah. And so, I don't mind attending their meetings, but I didn't want to try to be obligated, and there's.
John said no.
No, I didn't ask. But we also have a lot of independent special districts out there that have applied in the past, so I think we'll have a good pool to pull from, so. Okay, so that's all we have to do right now, right?
Yep.
We needed a motion though on that at all?
Not just,
Okay.
just really mostly an informational item, but also to remind the board that there is a schedule and that we'll be getting in the next few months, candidates.
Okay, on to the next.
All right, so the next item is 6D, policies for adoption by ordinance. There's also one at the end, the will serve letter that is not by ordinance, but by motion. So as the board may recall, we spent a long evening working on a number of our policies. Thanks to Ellen Rankin, our super volunteer that helped put a lot of that together. Based on that feedback, one of the companies that we made some updates to these, but as you recall, almost all of them were really, really minor. But the main reason why they're on your agenda today is because these policies were adopted by the board by ordinance. And so I felt and confirmed with our lawyer that if you were gonna change them, you needed to do it by ordinance. Now, what you will see in the ordinance that passes these, this ordinance at the end supersedes any all prior ordinances regarding, in this case, the first one, director's compensation. And then all future updates to this policy will be done at a publicly noticed meeting by a majority vote of the board without the need for an ordinance. So I think it just would make the board more nimble to do it and not use up all of our ordinances. Plus, as you recall, our plan was to, once we've updated these, is to put them into a board policies handbook so that all of these would all be in one big handbook. And then that way you can make modifications to them in the future boards.
So Logan, some of these haven't been updated 15 years or more. So.
And, obviously, new director, if he feels like he can vote for it, fine. If he'd like to abstain, obviously, you can do that.
I believe they'll.
You can abstain with it. So the first item is the director's compensation and expense reimbursement, ordinance number 23-10.
No, he wants to vote on that one.
Emily, I don't believe there's much to
You won't
report
get rich, but.
on updates. We took all of the board's, little items and fixed them. I think there's one that I noticed on page 2, we put in there no more than 2 additional activities can be contemplated for a given month. There was a concern that somehow somebody could game the system, right? So
It's been done in the past.
we won't have
And
to.
we're supposed to be volunteers.
Yes, no judgments, it's just we took care of that.
Yes,
So
I saw that, thank you.
Otherwise, it's ready, Madam Chair.
Unfortunately, I have some concerns. So I have 2 things that I need to talk about, and I apologize that I didn't actually just forward this to you, and they could be corrected. So on page 2, down at the bottom, B, reimbursement for expenses, we have travel, meals, lodging, and I think the and just needs to go away or put it after
Okay.
meals.
Yes, edited.
Okay, all right. And then on page 3, at the very bottom under 4, we talked about getting rid of the, taking people out to dinner, or meals for the, for board members paying for, or the district paying for.
Ah, we were gonna remove number 4.
I believe number 4 got removed.
Yeah,
It got removed. I'm thinking that these copies that you guys have here may
so
be.
it's not in here, there's nothing in here about the meals.
No, I don't see it.
Right, we got rid of the meals part of it,
Right.
but that part was still there.
Under 4?
If you're on page 3,
Yes,
Okay, I thought it was at the bottom, I was down near the bottom
Yeah,
looking at
page-
4.
page 3, item 4.
Okay.
I mean, I don't mind the first sentence, the expense reports must document that the expense in question met the requirements of this policy, which is true. We want every expense report must document. That's a true statement.
okay, wait a minute, I think there's a 4 at the top, and you're referring to Roman numeral
I'm yeah.
C3-4.
Correct, at the very bottom.
At the bottom, see?
C,
Super volunteer arrangement, how can we fix that?
Hold on just a minute.
The question is, requires. So you got rid of the meals and now you got meals back in, so I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
so we could just get rid of that last.
right,
sentence.
For last sentence.
Yeah,
Or
for
yeah.
example,
Yep.
just delete that out.
Okay, edited.
okay. And I think, let me just double check, I think that was the only thing that I caught.
So we're just taking the whole 4 out,
No,
or
No,
just the
last-
word meals?
The last sentence.
for example.
Okay, gotcha,
C3.
gotcha. Just clarifying.
Yep, that was all I had on that one.
Okay,
Okay, so, we will then, anybody else have any questions on the compensation and expense reimbursement policy?
No, I think we finally got it nailed down.
Okay, and so I need a motion to accept the policy
can
and.
you ask for any public comment?
Oh, no. Um, Is there any public comment in regards to our, expense and travel policies?
They had their opportunity last meeting.
Pretty much.
I know,
No, you were correct, yes.
I do have a question. You've got a couple forms that are in here with this policy. If you pass the motion now, are these forms able to be changed without going back? Because I think I've got a better one for the
Exhibits,
travel
Yeah.
management.
exhibit B, it's the travel
but
one.
these are the old ones that I use, so, yes, these can be
Melissa and I
modified.
had discussed changing them, but she wasn't around when we were finalizing them, so.
So can we just say, corrected with additional?
Again, the beauty of this ordinance is it allows us
To make changes, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
So,
I
go
make a
ahead.
motion that we accept the compensation reimbursement and training ethics policy. Is that what we're doing?
You're
You're
saying.
Yeah.
correct.
You're
With
saying that's
corrections.
form, right, Melissa?
Can you say motion to approve ordinance 2310, which
Yes.
is for the director's compensation?
I,
I think it's,
scroll back up to the.
Want to approve
Yeah.
motion 2310 with corrections, ordinance 2310 with corrections and corrected travel form.
Yep,
I'll second that.
good.
All right, I have a motion to accept ordinance 2023-10, board of directors compensation and expense with minor corrections and reimbursement vouchers, potential changes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? So one abstention. Okay.
Very good. Next one is the employee travel guidelines. So this one is to be approved by ordinance 23-11. Again, we went over this one extensively. And I think we captured everything. We didn't in the last one, but we got close. This one again is ready to be approved by 23-11. Also, at the end, it has that it supersedes all previous policies and ordinances, and all the future ones can be done without a motion.
Okay, so give me a minute before we approve that. Okay, so, all right, you changed, you got the right, the old packet had 2310, so
Yeah.
the new one,
Well,
the new one has 11, okay.
I think, yes, what happened was, ordinance 2309 had been approved, a couple months ago, but it was not in our ordinance file, so when I first started on this, I started with the wrong one, so, yes.
Okay,
That's why it's correct on your agenda.
yeah. Okay, any questions regarding this?
Actually, it looks pretty good to me.
Me too.
Obviously, it's, arrangements that must be approved in advance by the general manager, so I'm fairly confident they're gonna be done appropriately.
Anything from the, community in regards to the employee travel guidelines and reimbursement policy? No, okay, bring it back, okay.
I'll make a motion then that we approve ordinance 2023-11, the employee travel guidelines and reimbursement policy.
I second it.
I have a motion by Director McVeigh to accept ordinance, 2023-11. Wait, I'm looking at the cotton picking old one.
2023-11.
That's correct.
Yeah, but it's really off on the old packet. Ordinance 2023-11, employee travel guidelines and reimbursement policy. And a second by Director Beaver. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain?
One abstention.
One abstention.
Thank you. Next is the surplus property disposal. I think maybe just, I probably should have mentioned before, the last time this one had been looked at was in 2011. So again, an update. It's ordinance 2023-12 as identified on the agenda. And again, this one also supersedes all the previous ordinances and can be updated much more expeditiously in the future.
Right. It's almost boilerplate from the district, so.
Yep.
I've read through it. I really don't have any questions. It pretty much gives our general manager the responsibility and opportunity to appropriately disperse out, either through sale or whatever, anything that is excess property. And obviously it would be reported to us. So I don't have a problem with it.
Just one other thing for the board, we discussed it last time, but at the very end, one of the things that was not in our previous one, there is actually a reporting requirement. There's 571-L, if we ever do it, so it needs to get reported together. I don't think the district's done that in the past, and I'm not sure they have that requirement in the past.
No, they have not.
Any comments on the surplus property disposal policy on the floor? Yes, Charles?
Yeah, my dad used to work for REU. And there'd be a lot of tools or ladders or whatever that were worn. And, the city had a policy that none of the workers could actually have it. But after a while, you know, there was so much that they could actually take it if someone put it into a dumpster legally. So, I don't know if that's ever came up where the propriety, once it's thrown away,
It's fair game.
it's fair game, basically. So if you guys if they want that ladder or screwdriver or whatever else, I'd rather see it done like that than just giving a guy something. That way, you know, there isn't any improprieties with people working there.
There has to be.
I understand their comment, but I don't wanna see an employee or a customer dumpster diving for a screwdriver.
Well, it actually doesn't have to be a dumpster, but it has to be, like, there's no need for it for the district.
Right.
And, but, you know, like, I guess, like, the general manager could say, you know, I'm gonna have to dumpster this thing, and then the worker can have it, but I don't wanna see stuff just driven out here.
Oh, no, I would wanna see it donated before.
Donate, yeah.
Well, it says in there, when any surplus property is deemed to be unserviceable, junk or scrap, or otherwise no longer suitable for its original purpose, the general manager shall dispose of such items by destruction, scrap, trade, or sale of property at the best competitive price available.
So you're still gonna try that, okay.
Yeah, mostly, yeah, it could very well, but you have to document it also.
Basically, it just covers the district so that when it gets walked out of here because it's been thrown in the dumpster, we don't get into trouble.
There you
It also
Right.
tracks your inventory.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on.
Okay,
All I can say is, I've been here 7 months, and, I'm on a very aggressive tool and equipment replacement program because the neglect has been,
There.
very bad. So, you know, I mean, we're gonna have more of that situations, but if somebody wants a weed eater that does no longer function, you know, let me know.
Give it.
Go ahead, sorry.
okay, so we
Couldn't resist.
need a motion, or anything from did I already ask that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we are on the surplus property disposal policy.
I move that we, adopt the surplus policy, property disposal policy, ordinance 2023-12.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I will second that.
So we have a motion by Director Beaver to accept ordinance 2023-12 surplus property disposal policy with a second from Director McVeigh. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed or abstained? One abstention.
So are we just gonna take turns?
So here's my question on that.
Okay.
I don't feel that I've been here long enough to vote on these matters. Is it an issue that if I propose or make a motion for approval and then abstain?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
So, yes, by you making a motion, you're approving it.
Right,
You're-
yes.
so no,
Yes,
that's essentially what the dynamic is.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
correct, yeah, you're
That
fine.
is the.
You're good.
That's what
You're all
we're taking
good, Logan.
turns.
Yeah, you're all good.
Your wife's a party.
She moves, I second.
You're good, you're good.
I'm not a party broke, I gotta be out.
Yeah. So we are on to ordinance 2023-13, trespass.
Trespassing.
Again, fairly simple, but I think as our volunteer would mention, this was wrapped into the workplace violence and trespasser policy in the past. So all the workplace violence stuff is all handled under MOU and eventually a handbook. So we thought that it would be best, because it had previously been approved by ordinance, to get one, even though it's pretty limited in what it is.
Any other further discussion in regards to this policy from the board?
Pretty straightforward, no tasers, no tasing the trespasser.
Anything from the floor in regards to this policy?
Is that trespassing in these yards or
Yes.
properties or?
Trespassing on any district property.
It's usually people trespassing on district property.
Or climbing on the water tower
Right.
Yes, that's trespassing.
Well, didn't we say something about no trespassing signs?
Yep,
Yeah.
And do we have them?
they are being updated.
Okay.
We do, but not all of them are visible, not all of them are like straight. Some of them, you know, have been wired onto a fence and the wire broke. So.
Yep. But that's for the staff to take care of.
Right, I just wanna make sure that we have, because it says in there that we need to have them, so. Okay, do I have a motion on accepting ordinance 2023?
That would be me. I move that we approve ordinance 2023-13, the trespasser on CCSD property policy.
I second it.
I have a motion by Director McVeigh to accept ordinance 2023-13, trespassers on CCSD property policy, and a second by Director Beaver. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention.
That's my catchphrase tonight.
Don't worry about
I
it.
will just remind you that the chair can make a motion.
Oh, okay.
He's busy with all this other
Yeah,
comments.
all right,
Sorry,
so
boys.
next up is ordinance 2023-14. This is delinquencies and water service disconnection policy. You might recall that we had a pretty good discussion last time, but there was some confusion about it. So it was sent back to Shannon and Kayla in particular to go through it and try to make it as clear as possible. As you will hear in my future report, you know, since COVID is over, we finally got around to focusing on delinquencies and shutoffs, and there's been some really good results of that. So the ladies in the office really would like to see this approved, so they have this to point to. Just a reminder, because I get confused with it a few times, but, you know, the first, under B, it's actually non-residential, so this would be like a commercial or industrial or something like that, so that's more like a business.
Right.
The other thing that this has in it that was not always as clear in the past is we now have, once you approve this, a $50 disconnect fee and a $50 reconnect fee during business hours. So that's
During business hours,
that's also clear on that.
So, let me expand on it if I could, please. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Will there be a different fee or will we not do the reconnection or disconnect in off hours? So, we disconnect somebody, they come home from work and call up, hey, are we gonna have a separate fee, or are we not actually go out until the next business?
Currently, we do not reconnect or turn on after a turn off after hours.
Okay.
Because it's not clear on our current policy, but in here, it's clear that it's during business hours, because our on-call operators are not equipped to receive payment. You cannot be turned back on until you satisfy your delinquent bill. So, in
And
other
they have
words,
notice.
now we have, because obviously we had a lot of shutoffs, 80 some odd shutoffs 2 weeks ago. And, you know, legitimately some challenging people were really afraid to go into the weekend shutoff.
Is this where you give us the good news?
No, they're waiting still.
Yeah.
But, so we worked with them, you know, it's like, I'm in Reading, I can't get there till 4:45, you know, and so we kept one of our operators around to go turn them back on their way home. You know, that, yes, they hit at 5:10, but generally it is, that's it. And then, like I said, it's in here for that. The other thing too, just as a reminder, you know, your bills are sent the very last day of the month, you receive your bill. If you haven't paid by the 21st, you're delinquent, you will be assessed the delinquent fee. Then at the end of that month, you will be, this was described in here, you'll be sent your new bill with your delinquencies. If it's not paid at the end of 20 days, there's another fee. service fee, and then at the end of that second month, that's when you will get a 10-day shut-off notice for delinquency, so it's 60 days. Again, there's a description in here on how that goes through, which is much more clear now. There's also the written notice. There's also really, alternative payment plans, things that we can do with people. We can do amortized amounts, we can do other things. We also have in here some of the payment assistance programs that we offer people. There's also an appeal process. I think it's much more clear than it was before. I will just say it's fairly confusing on page 8, but there's a requirement to have a section about landlord-tenant situations.
Yes.
And we're still trying to work through some of the legalities of it. But this one, especially the second half in particular, is a situation in which you're a tenant and your agreement is for the landlord to pay the water bill. And if the landlord does not pay the water bill, and they get to the point at 60 days and a delinquency and a shut off, this allows the tenant to say, I'm willing to start a new account, I'll pay the water bill to make sure that I don't get shut off. So they don't get punished by their landlord goofing off. Sorry, but or not working with it. And this also could, it doesn't happen very often, but the mobile home parks, it could be a situation similar to that. So we don't want you to shut off 20 units, harming all of the units when it's really the landlord that we gotta continue to work on. We do not have, until we get our new software system up and running, a good lien system. And we also don't have as good of a kind of system, but we'll work it out as we get down the line, where the other way, which is a tenant is obligated in their agreement with their landlord to pay their water bill and does not pay their water bill and then leaves, the district and everywhere I've been in the past, that becomes an obligation of the landowner.
Correct.
And that is supposed to be in their lease agreement. And it's out here, it doesn't appear that that's always been the case. So when we have our new software and we have a new system that says every meter has an account, therefore the landowner, therefore we will have access to them. And so if they're a landowner and tenant, then obviously they have two accounts, but one is their operating account, one's their ownership account. If there's a tenant there, then if that tenant goes away, then that landlord it takes over. Now, again, this is the reason why you have first and last month and deposits, because if people walk away. Now, admittedly, the district for 2.5 years didn't deal with this. We've got accounts out there that have thousands of dollars worth of money on it. And so, I could see where a landowner would say, hey, wait a minute, watch that. But this way, it's only 60 days.
So the question then is, on the application, when they come in to apply for an account and they are a tenant, does the application have contact information for the property owner? Name, address, phone number, whatever? We really would like to see that, because if it becomes delinquent, we should probably mail one to the tenant and the landlord.
Absolutely.
Can you hold on to your question just a minute?
Yeah, and again, this is where the new system will literally take care of that, because
How long before the new system is up and going?
it's probably a month or so away, but they're still working on figuring out how to convert all our data.
So something that you and Scott just had in part of your dialogue on the bottom of page 7 and in the top of page 8, you were saying that we don't do reconnections, but on non-operational hours. So is it only for those that are federal poverty level that we do that? Because top of page 8 says up to $150.
Yeah, see, there's something in Senate Bill 668 that was passed, I a few years ago that had some requirements for if somebody is in their, in a poverty level, and they've had their service disconnected, and they've been able to demonstrate that, they should get restored, that, somehow that we can't not restore their, connection, let's say like, over a weekend or something, so you have to go do it.
Right, but we can direct them to, what is it, the SHIP program?
Yeah.
For financial aid.
Right.
To pay the bill, so.
All right, anything else on this one from the board? Charles, you got a question?
So the new program, if I've got a tenant in my property, you'll shut that water off within 60 days, so I don't have a $5,000 bill 2 years from now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully notify you at the same time that they are delinquent.
And again, if the district had been operating as they should have been prior to COVID, that shouldn't have been a problem, but I don't think they were. Then after COVID, it basically created a problem. So instead of nothing getting out of hand more than 60 days, it could get out of hand for thousands and thousands of dollars, which wasn't fair to either side.
Emily?
I'm just making a blanket statement here that the new software is going to be wonderful where this is concerned. Because before, it was very hard for them to track, it got lost in the system. They'd go and they'd lock out, customers would cut that lock, nobody knew it, and bills skyrocketed. With this new software that they have chosen, the notices that go out are very explicit, easy to understand, generated with the push of a button. It's gonna make a world of difference in this whole.
So the last question is, if something isn't done when you have like 6 months and 60 days, can you take the meter out if nobody is, paying the water?
If they cut the lock off.
If they're cutting the lock,
Yes. I've seen that done in the past.
Yeah. It's only after they cut the lock and,
Okay. So you will be taking meters out more sometime?
If
We hope not.
So we have another question.
Oh, I don't know if this helps answer your question, but 3.5 years ago, when I opened our account here as a renter before we bought our home, I did not have to provide our landlord's information on the application.
So as a tenant, you come in, you don't provide that information, you move out, and we don't know how to find you, we're stuck with the bill. So I want that landlord contacted, definitely.
I had a comment.
Yes, Sandy?
Years ago, when Denise O'Banion owned the trailer park down there, Kathy was here at this meeting, her mother, and wrote out a check for over $14,000 for delinquent accounts. I don't know how long they let it go on. Every one of those trailers had leaks in them. 1 meter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went on for a long time. It generated $14,000 to just house trailers.
The only thing I would ask is that, is there something, somewhere in the office that this is available when customers come in? Either when they are applying for an account, or if they come in behind. Will we have copies of this? I know it's gonna be on the website, but will there be hard copies that you could physically hand to someone to help them understand the process?
I think that's important.
we will have copies. I think you know that I've talked to some of our cities and others, and they've got some ways in which they encapsulated it all down to a quarter of a page, so that we actually put it on the backside of the delinquency notices, so that this is on there.
Excellent.
So we're gonna work on that.
Okay.
Yep, that's good point, good reminder.
Okay, so.
And just another reminder, it's identified correctly on the agenda, it's ordinance 2/20/2314.
So whose turn?
I move
That really, okay.
I move that we accept ordinance 2023-14, delinquencies and water service disconnect policy.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion to approve ordinance 2023-14, delinquencies and service disconnection shut-off policy, with a second from Director McVeigh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those abstaining?
One abstention.
One
Oh, no,
abstention.
you could actually vote for this one. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, the next one is the will serve letter. There has not been a policy on this, just a practice of the district. So that's why it does not need an ordinance. But Emily and I, looking over some of the stuff in other districts that actually post their will serve policy, we thought it would be best to encapsulate our practice on this. And you all saw this at the last meeting, and you see what the sample in the back is. This would mention that there's a fee schedule. This is something we can update at a future rate study, rate hearing, because why we have $100.81 per hour is mind-boggling, but it's mostly because over time, the district would up it a percentage or two every year. And once we had approved the new rate structure, that yearly update wasn't available, and so it needs to go back and have a study to find out what it actually costs to do these items and round it to the nearest dollar.
And
Yes.
And that will also then be in regards to the meter fee also?
Yep.
So,
Is that where we are charged?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's slightly off topic, but a question then. With the new software, will you be able to calendar in these various ordinances for their yearly, every 2 years, 5-year review? So it'll pop up on the calendar, the board needs to review and either just continue or
Yes, so
address your policy.
we've been talking to Kayla about using our Microsoft, Office suite, and particularly a calendar, basically creating a board calendar that has like meetings and things like that. But that's where we can put all these things that need to be reviewed at a certain time.
It's obvious that a lot of these weren't reviewed, and you can't necessarily blame the board if they don't know they have to. So if we have that opportunity, that would be an excellent thing to do,
Excellent.
to keep us on track.
And again, this one doesn't need an ordinance, just a motion.
I have a quick question before we close. On the will serve fee schedule,
Yeah.
one of the things we talked about last meeting was, some of the fees for the different meters are so high. Do they need to be that high? I mean, we look at the different, lots going up for sale now, and some are starting to go up for sale that haven't been. And we have said that we want, Happy Valley to grow. I mean, do we have, is this really what it costs? Is this really what we have to charge? And I don't know that you have the answer for that, but do you get where I'm kind of going?
Yeah, so I can't speak to how these were calculated in the past, but the way your meter charge is calculated, we'll just use this 5880 Oak, and they're gonna build a house right here, and you want a meter, and it's a 1-inch meter. What is calculated is not just the physical meter cost, it's obviously the installation, because our staff installs it. Everything after the meter is the homeowner's responsibility. But it's also really part of the, what is the cost to deliver water to that 1-inch meter from the treatment plant all the way to there. So there's a lot of sunk cost, that obviously it's paid for, but that's included in your monthly base rate as well. But that's part of what meter charges are done. So when the board did its updated rate work, the Citizens Advisory Committee in 2021, they focused on the base rate and the usage rate and how all that gets wrapped together. But usually what you do is you revisit this to figure out if that's as accurate.
Well, I think, I know the way that those fees were figured out, because it's something we've struggled with the charges that were levied on us by those people. I think this really needs to be revisited.
If I can add some input into that, about 3 years ago, I looked into what it would cost to put a 3/4 inch meter if I was splitting part of my property. And I was quoted at that time by our distribution supervisor, approximately $18,000 plus another $2,000 to $3,000 install. So if you're talking, it's only $12,000 now, that's a significant drop.
And I still think it's too high.
It's not a drop, they've never dropped it, Scott.
No, but the quote I had for 18 plus install, which was the cost of the meter and the capacity, like.
Well, I know that when I went into the district office, long before any of us were involved in this, they were trying to talk me into getting rid of my 2-inch and going down to 3/4, because the state would help pay for it, because I'd use less money, and the state would subsidize me, and it would only cost me $1,000, so, and I told them I wasn't interested, and they, were not nice to me. So, I really think this needs to be revisited.
Yeah.
But we have to take a look at what the actual cost to the district would be.
That's exactly why, it has to be
That's what I
analyzed.
said.
Okay.
How many times did this go around and actually change out those meters without notifying the customer too?
Well, they said 0.
That's a lie.
Yeah.
People would go on
That's a lie,
vacation.
because they showed up
and
on my
they'd be
property
changing.
and tried to rip up our meter, and Jim happened to be there, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, what, Sandy?
people would go on vacation, come back home, their meter was
Yeah,
changed.
exactly.
Oh, okay, that's.
But yeah,
that's
that's,
history.
but I don't think we had told Paul that part of it, that we hadn't heard, Those are all things that we found, so, okay,
Yeah, moving on.
moving on.
Blah, blah,
So
blah.
I
Let's
need
clear this one up.
a
This is-
motion to accept the will serve letter policy.
And I will make that a motion that we accept the will serve, policy.
Does this also have on the end that you can change it at will, Paul?
Well, the board would have to change it to come to a regularly scheduled meeting.
Yeah, this one doesn't have an ordinance.
Yeah.
There's no ordinance, so it's just a
Okay, I
regular
second
meeting.
it.
When they found out that those original government installed meters were not recording properly, excuse me, I had too much smoke today. They were doing the best they could to dig all those old government meters up and install whatever they were putting in back then. There was census something or another, I forget the exact title of them, and they didn't work right either.
Anyway, we have a motion.
We have and I don't even remember who did the motion.
I did.
Okay, so Director McVeigh, moved to accept the will serve letter policy. We have a second by Director Beaver. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
One abstention. Motion carried.
Okay, Madam Chair, the next item is our fiscal year 23 activity or P&L actual report for budget. And we have Melissa with us to take some help with that. I just want to mention a couple of items. The budget along the right-hand side, that was the previous budget plus a few amendments back in quite a while ago. So at the time that the board approved the budget in August of 2022 for FY23, it wasn't as granular as we made it. So that's why you're going to see a little bit of some of those things that are interesting in there. A couple of items just on the base rate. Obviously especially because of May and June, when some of our delinquencies started getting paid, we actually bumped that up. We got close to 88% of our payments. You'll see in Centerville, the 159 versus the budget at 190. That's just because a couple months were missing and got delayed, and you just saw in the July that they came in. We did, push very hard because we actually had the cash flow to do it, to catch up as far as we could on our WIN Act payments and expenses. So if you look on page 2, you'll see that we kind of budgeted for $250. We We put in, $350, payments to the WINAC. Some of the other, items, just really quick as you go down, the treatment, Bill was pretty conscious about trying to keep costs as down as much as he could, knowing that there were increased costs in distribution from all the leaks we had last year. So the utilities are a little less because we were in a drought, we had zero allocation, and we were, pushing water, through there. The O&M repair was a little lower just because chemicals, mostly chlorine, were more expensive. Something, this is one of the most pesky little flies I've ever seen.
Yeah. Visiting everybody.
And he's not very big either.
No, not me. Pesky little fly. So just under distribution, probably some of the main highlights is there were some sections in utilities that had not previously been budgeted or attributed to distribution, so we're going to rectify that. Inventory and tools, like I said, we've been on a fairly aggressive update on things. The guys didn't even really have a functioning pipe saw, so we did that. Just minor things, but then a lot of repairs and maintenance, and during a period of time when we were understaffed, so that we had some higher costs there. In the previous budgets, they had some of this admin, and then we had wells and boosters. We had different things broken out in different ways, but you can see significantly less cost under the wells and booster section because we weren't pumping as much water, especially the last half of that fiscal year. And obviously starting in March, we had an allocation of water.
We're pumping more water this year, but not a huge amount more. And I'm taking a look at the current fiscal year's budget for utilities by the water treatment. It's up about 26,000 from last fiscal year's actual. I'm wondering if that's gonna be sufficient with the increases.
Again, that's going to be a great subject of our quarterly review of potential budget adjustments.
Yes, it will.
I want to just point out, top of page 5, there's $84,000 in engineering. This is all primarily the beginnings of our 2 grant projects, the emergency electrical repairs and SCADA project, as well as the backwash ponds project. So currently, we for the emergency SCADA, we actually have submitted $53,000 worth of engineering invoices for reimbursement. And the backwash ponds, we've submitted about $40,000 of invoices. All that
Right.
basically that. So one of the things that this pointed out, and Chair Fickus, and as part of the Finance Committee, had sent some questions and notes. And one of them was, is there a way that we can track our reimbursable expenses? And so Melissa and I are working on ways in which we can report that. We think it's probably going to be easiest in sort of a separate item, part of our reporting, either quarterly or part of the balance sheet type of thing. Because it's a real challenging thing with grants and cash flow. I was going to wait till later, but I'm going to just broach the subject here. What I've dealt with in the past with grants is that it's a real cash flow challenge, especially in a district that doesn't have any reserves. So one of the things super disappointing about the loss of reserves here is the flexibility to be able to fund these grants without getting other help. So one of the real challenges with the state is that this backwash ponds in particular, you can only submit for reimbursement quarterly.
Okay.
So you get 3 months worth of expenses, you put together your report, you submit it to the state. Now, they may take a month before they even look at it.
Sure.
And they feel very little obligation to cut you a check for anything less than about 90 to 120 days.
Understandable.
So for a $470,000 project, the electrical repairs and SCADA project on the South Booster Wells, probably we're going to be able to handle that financing in ins and out. For a $5 million backwash ponds construction project that's hopefully going to go out to bid this fall and go into construction next year, that may not be our option. So one of the things I've asked our PACE engineering to do is when they're putting together bid documents, ask for proposals for financing, because you can get a contractor to self-finance. That. In other words, they will submit their invoices, not for payment, they'll hold on to that.
Right.
And give us time to go and submit for reimbursement, then we pay them. Now, there's a cost of money. It costs you, that costs money. The other way we could do it is, we can go out and get, go like iBank, or there's a couple other infrastructure lending, where in which you basically get a line of credit. So you pay the contractor his bills, you submit for reimbursement, and you get that, and you repay your loan.
Right.
Why do you have the cost?
Well, 2 years ago, it would have been cheap. Now
Yes,
it's-
I know.
Now, do we still maintain that line of credit? Is it with,
With the Tri-County, yeah.
Tri-County, it's only 75,000.
Which we may have to use for something.
I understand.
So I just wanted to bring that up, as you can see later on, items. I think the biggest takeaway here is that we need to go and figure out how to get our 7,000 section down there. Currently it's all zeros.
Yep.
So in other
Yeah,
words-
big question mark.
Yeah, we did.
And so, now remember, technically, those were not available in fiscal year '23. They're only available because you approved the budget for fiscal year '24 for this. But I think we should at least try to go back and figure that out. So if you back out, you have your bottom line of our net income of $368,647. If you back out $341,000 and change from our designated revenue, the money that's supposed to come in and go directly to our reserve account, you know, we have a net of $27,550.
Right.
Based on this report. Now, I think we should figure out a way, obviously there's some catch-up, we gotta go back and deal with this, but figure out a way to put, so if you do a quick calculation, 75,100 should have 27,071 put into it.
How much?
Based on the operating reserve, 4.1% of usage would be 27,071.
Right.
Yeah, I missed it again, 27,000.
71. And your capital improvement modernization reserve, 1.8, the base rate would be 27,455.
Correct.
That's only 1 year's worth.
That would be for the fiscal year '23.
2022, 23.
He's putting money into, giving us money for the reserves.
Okay,
That's what he's saying should be put there.
Yeah.
but shouldn't it be, is that based on 1 year or 2 years?
No, just one
Fiscal
fiscal
year
year.
on there.
Just the fiscal year. July 1, 22 through June 30, 23.
Okay, but if the reserve already had 100,000 in it, and so you're saying that it's only gonna show 27,000?
No,
No, that's
27 should be
100%.
added to that reserve.
Correct.
He's just telling you for this fiscal year, based on our income numbers, what should have been put into these accounts. That he's just telling you that number, not anything
Right.
that is already in there and adding this to it. It's just what should have been put in during the last year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to back up to page 3, just so the rest of the board and the community gets to see one of the things you've been working on. And what I'm talking about is the wells, utilities, $130,000 last fiscal year. we were running, what, about 5,800 a month or more? What are we running now?
Well, 2,200 less.
Yeah, significantly less. I was looking at some of
Over
those, and they
60.
were $600, $800 instead of 4,000.
They were charging us, what, $9, $18 a kilowatt or
Standby
something?
fee,
Yeah, just a standby. And we're not
PG&E
using it.
did?
Yes.
Why would they, how come that?
Because they could.
That's
Because
why.
we're commercial or?
Yeah, so real quick, when you have a large commercial scale well, as we have 3 of them on, down at Happy Valley Road and Gas Point Road, when you do not use them, PG&E charges you a standby charge. So in other words, they are saying, when you turn on that switch, you're gonna hit the power grid for a significant load. And so they charge you a kilowatt standby amount, just in case you turn it on. Yeah, don't get me started on it too. Yeah. And so they were charging for one of our wells, 150 kilowatt standby amount at like $10 to $12 per kilowatt.
Yep.
So, so we've been hassling them and harassing them, and they're kind of getting it down lower and lower. And basically what I'm saying is,
Why can't we get the care? We're the low income.
So we should be able to save a
So he
good
did
40,000.
negotiate with them though, and he got it dropped significantly.
So
So-
some of these things have never been looked at or never, questioned. And so now we are you guys are in a short meeting compared to the budget meeting. I mean, where we've looked at things that some people didn't want us to look at, and PG&E was one. So,
thank you, Director. Okay.
thank you for
Pushing it,
PG&E.
yeah. Okay, so was
So,
there,
I really apologize for talking too much, but, obviously Melissa's here to help with some items, but, you, Director, McVeigh and Chair Fickus had sent in a couple of questions.
Correct.
One of your questions was, what is the WIN-ACT balance?
Mm-hmm.
And so my response is, which balance are you asking about? So there's 2 WIN-ACT balances, and I think they're really well described in my budget narrative.
Okay.
But just for clarity's sake, the WIN-ACT is where the district borrowed from the Water Infrastructure Act,
Improvement for the.
Act, and it paid off the district's obligation for the construction of all of the facilities attributable to the Central Valley Project for us.
Mm-hmm.
In exchange, we get our 15,300 acre feet a year contract in perpetuity. Well, since 1967, it's either every 20 years or 10 years or 8 years or 15 years. The district and the bureau, gets together and fights over it and to renew the contract. That we don't have to do anymore. We have 3 years to pay off the WIN-ACT. The district did not make any payments from December of 2020, and there was some haggling that went on. We got the credit. So ultimately, our balance is $651,000. $651,500.38, just to be exact.
Is that the original balance or after that credit with
That's
partial
after
payment?
the $207,000 credit. Our original
Okay.
balance was
It was 8 something.
840.
Okay.
All right, so, at one time, the district was gonna go out and borrow $650,000, pay the WIN-ACT off, and then pay back the bank over a 15-year period of time. You do all your calculations, that equals $1.88 per connection per month, probably for about 14, 15 years. The district did not get that loan, so starting last year, the district is is borrowing from our operating funds and paying off our WINAC covenants. So that's why there's two balances. There's one balance in which we're borrowing from operating, and we're gonna pay it back, and if you recall, when we approve the budget, we're gonna pay it back at a $50,000 a year rate, which is $1.88 times 12 times our connections, give or take. That takes about 12 to 13 years to pay that off. Our physical balance, we made a payment in July to the Bureau. Our physical balance is $149,394.38. So, good news, we got 3 payments left.
Did we make a payment in August? I thought I saw.
Yeah, we made a payment in August.
So that would get us to 100,000 basically.
Yeah, so we got basically 3 more payments, one that just got processed and 2 more after that. So, remember, this is all due by December of this year. The Bureau was willing to let us go into next year. I just would prefer to take the cash flow hit and get it all done
Yes.
now. That way we don't have any dispute.
But if the Bureau's cutting you off, how they expect you to make any money?
They don't care.
Once we have this paid off, all that money that you're seeing on our activity reports doesn't go away, it stays with the district. So.
But I know, if they're cutting off our allocation, we gotta go buy water for
Yeah,
5 times the cost to feed our meters. How they expect us to make these payments when they cut us off altogether?
And we have asked that question.
yeah, that's, don't ask logical questions.
There was a time when the Bureau wanted to get rid of all the little special interest districts. They were offering, buyouts, really silly amounts,
No, thanks.
like $1.
So, I'm gonna take advantage of this opportunity and also just comment on 2 other quick things that the board asked questions on. First of all, they asked, what are the balances in our in our bank accounts, okay? So usually the finance committee will get our bank statements, so they're aware of that. But, really for the end of this fiscal year, so this report balance, our general checking had $135,000. Our merchant account had $470,000. So those are our 2 operating revenue accounts. Our operating reserve savings account, so that's the one that's gonna get one of these $27,000 payments, has $1,004. Our expansion and modernization reserve has $104,000. I'm rounding down.
Yeah.
We have 2 kind of stationary accounts that are related to the car fire. One has $177,000. This is sort of a general car fire one. And then we have a car fire backwash ponds project that has $15,000.
And that has to be used or returned to the state, does it not?
That one, yes. The general car fire account needs to be reconciled with JPIA.
Okay.
So JPIA was our liability insurance. They also covered the fire. When the fire happened, like they said, how much damage? And, I think the district said, 200,000 to 300,000, we don't really know. They basically deposited a $500,000 check into our account. And so we've been tracking and using that for fixes along the way. And at some point, probably at the end of this fiscal year, we gotta reconcile and return whatever we don't use.
Yeah.
Let's use it all.
Okay, and then we have some reserve accounts that are directly attributable to our fees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the $7.55 fee, which is the filtration plant repayment, currently has $211,000 in it.
Is that equal to 1 annual payment?
No, 2 annual payments.
2 annual payments?
All right, and so, as it relates to the filter plant loan, and again, one of the things we're planning to do is to have a little explain your fee column in the upcoming newsletter, so that we can start, we've been explaining, we just had one that's coming out that will explain the WIN Act a little bit, but this one. So the filter plant loan, so this was 1997, all those filter trains that you see up there, $7.55 a month. It was made up of two loans. One was for 4.4 million, about 3%, 2.97% loan. And the other was to fill in what wasn't available through that one, was a $445,000 loan at about 2.5%. We just processed the 50th of 60 payments on the filter loan. So we have 5 years to go. 10 more payments at 2 payments a year. And we have about $1 million on principal, $928,000 left on the principal.
How much left on the principal?
$928,000 left on the principal.
A question about that. Since it was required to have that restricted reserve account to do the grant, I'm assuming that the customers have paid into it in advance and it wasn't operational like the WIN Act money. So I'm assuming that since it's 2 years worth of payments, that in about 3 years, we could probably take that extra 211,000 and possibly
Melissa's
pay it
saying
off,
no.
close out that account. No? Okay.
Well, obviously, when we completed paying back the loan, well, let me just finish my previous thought. The payment is $110,000 per payment.
Okay.
In April and in August, so whatever the dates are.
So the 211 is really only 1 year.
1
Two
year
payments,
payment,
1
is
year.
2 payments. But don't forget the $445,000 loan, now obviously significantly less. We just made the 47th payment of 60 payments. So we got 6.5 years left on that. The payment amount on that is about $10,000, and the principal left on that one is $127,000.
Okay.
Well, we have this in writing, so that it's better than my scribble scrap.
First of all, you can see I've got a spreadsheet here, the tracker,
There we
all
go.
that stuff here. I've got the loan payment item there, that's how I know it's the 60th payment. We'll make sure the finance committee has all this, and we can give it to the rest of the board at some point. The thing that you've got to calculate, so the next time we go into our rate process, I think we're still gonna have enough time where this will need to be collected. So, but you're right about that point. And then we also have, and I don't have it as well calculated, but we also have the WIN Act, currently has $62,000 in the reserve account. That's basically 1 year plus a few months worth of money put into it. And then we have the backwash recycle, which has $23,000 in it as a reserve. And that one has, let's see, a yearly payment of, I think, $17,000, or maybe it's every other payment. I don't have that one as nailed as the filter plant one. And then we have the state loan repayment reserve, that's the dollar fee, and that's got $33,000. And that was really all for any future grants to be attached to. So I believe I answered most of your questions that you sent to me. You did send me a question about some OPEB stuff and one of our former employees, and I've given you an answer on that, but long and short of it, we do, that's one of the ones that's an outlier, like a lot of other ones around here. With that, any other questions on this?
I have one going back to last fiscal year's year end. Line item 53030, page 6. It's the chargebacks Do we have a policy in place to where we charge the customer a certain amount for insufficient funds on a check or whatever?
Yes, I believe it's $35 or somewhere around there for the SS.
Okay.
That's a lot of money though, $20,000.
Yes.
Is it, why does it say account refunds? Oh, so people that, deposits or they leave, they might have money on their accounts.
Right.
And then this is possibly for the one lady who had a meter that she paid for and didn't ever put it in, or whatever that was, how it was there. And that was a big chunk of change, I think.
Yes.
I think too, another opportunity to pitch our new software system, the previous deposits for connection fees or capacities. The district, wrote on a little half piece of paper, a receipt, and, usually didn't keep it, so they counted on the customer to have the receipt. So now, again, the property owner will have an account, it'll have that connection fee and everything else.
Yeah, they did that to my daughter.
Yeah.
She had her receipt.
Thank God.
The
Should have
deposit.
kept that receipt.
There you go. So I think too, just a reminder to the board, as we get, we should in July have that, the monies going into those 700 accounts and start accumulating monies. And then I think the plan is on a quarterly basis to the board, we would be bringing you your first quarter expenses to budget, and we'd be talking about maybe some budget adjustments up and down, depending on some of the items that we may have discovered. We also have been talking about having some manner of a balance sheet on a quarterly basis that will have things like, that'll help you know what our current balance is for the truck loan, right, the dump truck loan, and what some of these other balances are. And then, not sure yet how to do it, but, some way to report what our balances are, and actually all of those, like I just verbally said, but to me, this is a really good subject for the finance committee on September 12th, to talk about how we report back to the board.
So obviously, we're planning a finance committee for September 12th.
Yeah, tentatively got it 5:30,
5:30.
on September 12th.
And I still need to schedule an ag committee meeting. But I need a second on that committee.
On what?
The ag standing committee, I'm all by myself.
Yeah, you are. A real
I
great
really need
subject for an
another
appointment.
director on the committee with me.
Well, I've already wrote it down, we're gonna have it on the agenda for the 12th, or for, not the 12th, but for the next meeting to get the committee set. All right, this is really mostly a report and an opportunity for the community and the board to see it and kind of get us prepared for the future finance committee. And Madam Chair, the next item is we need another signer on our accounts and our checks.
I volunteered to do that, I just need to know how to, because I'm close to, it shouldn't be a problem.
That would be such a blessing to the district to have somebody else.
But as you are also the alternate for the finance committee, we'll vote on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically what the bank needs is in our minutes, a motion to appoint a check signer, and then we'll coordinate with the bank to get them here to get all the paperwork.
Will we all have to be here again like last
It
time?
may well be, so.
Yeah. 9 different accounts to sign
Yeah,
on.
it's one of the joys of tri-counties.
I so move that Director Beaver be authorized as the third or fourth signer, or the third board member.
How about just say as an additional signer?
As an additional signer.
I will second that.
motion by Chair Fickets to, appoint, appoints not approve Director Beaver as a signer for financial matters for the district, second by Director McVeigh. I didn't ask for public comment. Was there any public comment? All right, so all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Oh, we got a vote.
All right.
I feel confident.
He's getting there.
That one, he can roll with it. All right, next up is the general manager's report. You got a written report here. I just want to identify, I was going to identify the Central Valley Project Restoration Fund, just as a heads up, we may need to do a rate adjustment. We'll talk about that at the Finance Committee. I gave you a little brief update in here on our emergency electrical and SCADA repairs project. Again, just as a reminder, we got $470,000 out of the Emergency Drinking Water Fund from the state. One of its requirements is that we get the project done and we get it done by the end of this year. So we're pushing pace hard. John Rossi, our electrician, is kind of fell behind on some things, because one of the things we need is communications between our wells, the booster, and our SCADA system. Currently, we have to physically go down and do everything with the wells, and we're really only able to operate one well at a time. So 1,500 gallons per minute, great, but that's just one well, and then we shut that one down and do the other one. It'd be better to run all three at 500 and combine it. So, they've all, we've got a crew of guys out there pulling cable, because we actually have conduit in the ground for some previous communications that had fallen apart and a few things. They're fixing it, pulling cable, be significant benefit. The only other way to communicate between the wells and the boosters is to stick a bunch of radio towers up high that talk over the hills. So, knock on wood, that'll happen. We ordered a bunch of material. We're also going to get a new flow meter up at the booster station. So we're going to have a lot more information about the flow into the tanks, and that's a really good project. Moving forward.
The communication's coming back here to the district office, so the alarms will be back here. We won't have that AT&T bill. It was running $1,100-1,200 a month, and they'll be able to identify what alarms have to be responded to.
In most cases, resolve them just on a computer.
Yes.
The backwash pond project, just a really quick reminder, this is really kind of a post-car fire one, but that's why there's some funding from Cal OES and FEMA. But the real problem we have up there is we have a lot of infiltration. We got 3 ponds, if you recall. There's a lot of water that seeps down into the bottom ponds, so we'd like to concrete the ponds, concrete lining, so avoid some of that seepage and water getting out. Plus, right now, it's just an extensive and expensive process to dry them and clean them out. So the ability now to just get your tractors in there, scoop, 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 and get it out of there is going to be significant. The state did sign the funding agreement back in April. We did make our first submittal for reimbursement. The final construction drawings, I just was in a meeting yesterday, are planned to be done by the end of next week. There was 2 meetings this week with Parks, the Bureau, and they're trying to get a hold of WAPA and a few others to make sure they know, hey, this is what's happening. Is there anything you need that's different than we're staying in our footprint? There shouldn't be, but there's making sure of that. There's a real push to get these out to bid in the winter, because we know we're going to get better bids, more reasonably priced bids, better way to put it, in the winter time. So the hope is plans completed in 2 weeks, review and done completed in a month, bids put out in October, bids closing at the end of November, opening of bids at the beginning of December, bringing them to the board for award in December. Obviously, that gives us some time. If it doesn't happen until January, that's fine, so. So that one is moving forward. We are still waiting for the approval from Cal OES for an extension of time. They seem to only give 1 year time extension, so they're burning a lot of effort and energy just to extend the time, even though they approved the project based on a construction schedule that had construction of one pond in 2024 and another pond in 2025. So we have 3 ponds up there. We can't take 2 of them out of operation and actually operate. So it's gonna be hard enough to operate with 1 pond under construction, but we can. So you fix one, then you basically wait till winter of 24, 25, and go back in to redo the project in 25. And the other issue that's emerged, sorry to take a little bit of time on this one, but it's kind of a budget hit that was unanticipated. Really a great thing to have PG&E undergrounding their utilities. It's a great thing to have TDS get a rural fiber grant and underground those fiber. The state, and we suspect that these big corporations got a change at the state. The state implemented a change in the 811 system and the locate and utility service alignment identification. It used to be in other places where I've been, if a utility was doing some work, you called them and actually the utility got charged on a per linear foot of checking. Mm-hmm. Now it's a per ticket charge, and the utilities don't pay a per ticket charge, they just call. And so the system sent us a bill that had 4,200 calls in the last year to our district for locates. And the bill just to handle those calls by their system was $2,600. That does not include, that's just a raw cost, that doesn't include Roberto's time and everybody else's time to run out there and spray paint and everything. Mm-hmm. So I had a meeting actually with the state senator's office along with Bella Vista, because they got 8,000 calls in the last year. And it's just overwhelming, and we gotta believe it's happening in other communities. It's a real unfunded mandate that is just very challenging to handle. And the biggest problem is, again, don't hear that I'm disparaging underground utilities, but PG&E hires contractors. MGE is one you see driving around, they're all over the place and they're tearing up everything. And so they're basically doing a design on the fly and build. And using us, identifying where our utilities are. They go out and look at it, they run back and they draw up plans and they start digging away and they avoid our stuff, and then they call again. And so when you get a call, you have to respond within 72 hours. You also, the district does. And the other thing is, they're only good for 30 days. So when they go out and they get us to call and they spray and they check it and then they run back and redesign, by the time they mobilize again, they call us again for the same thing. So again, just giving you a little heads up, I was not super aware of this until I got our bill. I'm like, wait a minute, just for the boards.
Aren't they
Pleasure.
buying water from us?
Oh yeah, MG.
So why don't we boost the cost of the water to cover that?
Yeah, we should. Now, the state senator's office was like, wow, this is amazing. We haven't heard about this problem at all, but it's gotta be happening in Paradise and in Placer County and just about anywhere else. There's rural communities that are high fire prone, that are undergrounding.
Yeah.
Is this Mrs. Dolly or Mr. Dolly? Dolly?
Mr.
Dolly.
Senator. And, so they already put some heat on PG&E, and PG&E already sent me an email today saying, okay, we'll meet with you and we'll get our project manager.
Good.
So we're gonna go, Bella Vista and I are gonna try to get a couple other districts that are being impacted and go after PG&E and their contractors, but also go after the state and say, hey, what's up with this unfunded mandate? You know, you realize your impact here. And the other thing is, now, one reason why we're motivated to respond, we're protecting your infrastructure. So, I mean,
Yes.
don't get me wrong, we want to make sure people are identified. But
Yeah.
the very state agency that charges us on a per ticket call are also using a bunch of money to run an inordinate number of radio ads to say, don't put that tree in until you call 811.
Yes.
Don't plant your crop until we call 811. The number of 811 calls that they generated to fund themselves is quite amazing.
So is the district running out now and using blue paint to
Yeah.
indicate water lines?
Yeah.
Because it was just done across the front of my property.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that the MGE's coming up this way pretty soon?
That's what we suspect. Now, TDS has, their fiber
Yeah, they already
guys.
pulled that conduit though.
Yeah,
That orange, they put in quite a while ago.
yes, but, they just had a subcontractor with a crew of 15 guys that were out right across the street here. They're all from Utah. And they were out here doing some work, and they kind of been around the block a lot, so they were much more interested in working with us and making sure everything was okay and stuff like that. Plus, we have a 32-inch line out here, and that freaked them out, so we better make sure we don't touch that.
Have you been able or had our distribution supervisor review the as-bills? I know we had a problem with MGE digging into one of our lines because the as-bill was wrong.
Yeah, that was definitely one. I mean, I
Aren't
think,
they supposed to pothole that anyways? Aren't they supposed to do their own location besides this, you paint it?
they do. I think one of their potholes actually hit our pipe because we did not have it correctly marked. So.
And that gets very expensive.
Yeah, so it would be great if the district had GIS someday and was able to put everything on it, so we didn't have to have physical paper on it. But
Yes.
that's another grant pursuit that we'll have to go after. All right, I know we're getting late here, Madam Chair, so let's go quickly to the operator's report, because I really can't wait to give you some really interesting good news. So we always have the administration item here. I will just mention at the July 19th administration report, we had 325 accounts 30 days delinquent for $24,000. We had 273 accounts 60 days delinquent for $18,000, and we had 240 accounts 90 days delinquent for $145,000. You can see just in all of the effort, the significant reduction here. I am pleased to report, as of yesterday, based on all of our delinquencies and shut-off notices, customers have paid $70,801 in past due payments.
Yay.
And LEWAP/SHIP has paid $31,751 in other customers. So we have received in 6 weeks $102,552.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So you might recall the cost of putting our account clerk full time was about $12,000. So I think it paid for itself.
We knew it would.
We knew it would, ongoing, just confirming it. The SHIP people and LEWAP have just been unbelievable. And they, as it turns out, we happened to do it just at the right time, because they actually called us. They called Kayla and me, and we thought, oh, they're going to say, quit sending all these people the wrong way. And they said, no, just keep sending them, we have lots of money.
So
They actually, I did a quick sort. Our largest customer outstanding balance was about $13,000. We're still working on that one. Our second largest was 7,700 something, and SHIP paid all of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Uh-huh.
So our big challenge and worry is that these people aren't going to pay for the next 60 days, and they're going to be back on the delinquency, but that's all right, we'll deal with that. But how about that for good news, huh?
That's
Yep.
good news.
Oh,
Do we know how many, I mean, like we had an amount of accounts that were delinquent, do we know what we're down to?
Well,
with your last?
there were 252 or 3 over 60-day delinquent / shut-off accounts about 6 weeks ago. Maybe 4 weeks ago. Of that, there were almost 90 actual shut-off notices sent and door hangers. And and of those, about 50 of those rushed in here to pay. Obviously, one of the things you find out is somebody cut the lock, somebody's moved out, there hasn't been anybody in that place forever. So we just did shut-off notices last week, and it's down to 25.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, Shannon today was just processing another 250 or so delinquent notices, but those are 30-day delinquent notices, not shut.
And the 90 days, we're just down to a few.
Those, some of those are long-term, the 1081s.
I think he did
Yeah,
this.
most of these, again, I think, now that, once you do this for multiple months, and you whittle down like the real delinquencies, the real, one of the things we found is there's many people come and just relieved as heck that they finally get to deal with this. They just kind of put it off. It's like, okay, what do I owe? What do I stop getting them paid off? Or, we're able to get them help from, some low income, something. I think, Pam, you might have been one that even mentioned that people are just really relieved. In some ways, we've had a lot fewer angry customers than we thought. We did have some, but, so I think once we've done this for probably a good 3 months, then we can say, okay, clearly there's 150, 90 plus days. Those are not going away. We're gonna have to go check each one of those and say, are these write-offs? Are they 1081s? Are we remove the meters? Or, what do we do with those?
At least we'll have a clean slate down the road.
Yes, please. The rest of this, you can see July, we used 413 acre feet, 100 tunnel acre feet. The treatment plant, they replaced a couple of those actuators. They're still working on a few more. They are trying to get this pond as dry as possible and get it removed. The problem is they've got seepage and everything. This is the one that hopefully is going to be under construction.
And we have rain coming, right?
And then we got rain coming. And Bill was just.
They've cut it down to what we're gonna get substantially.
Oh, yes, it's not going to be much. It's one of those summer months. With that, again, talk too much as usual. So I'm just going to jump to the standing committees. The Finance Committee, we're going to meet 5:30 on September 12th. The Agricultural Committee did not have a quorum, but had a forum meeting of which there were some, sort of administrative notes and things taken.
What we're working on is the supplemental water program.
Yeah.
Want to get that in place while we don't need it, so that if it comes to where we do need it, it's in place, ready to run for customers.
And then the board met on August 9th as the planning and steering committee and handled 12 policies, of which we just finished a bunch of.
Okay.
Board member items.
All right, anything that you, start with Pam, anything, Pam?
No.
Scott?
I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't think I made it in my, it didn't make it in my notes. No, it did not. Okay, so I'm gonna have to say no.
I think what it was, because when we were talking, we were wanting to know about, capital planning or short-term or long-term, 5-year.
The 5 or 10 year.
5-year and 10-year, because we do need to start working on the infrastructure and seeing, so is that something then for the planning and steering committee to work on?
Yeah.
Because that's gotta be our next big ticket item, as we start to get a little bit of reserve, hopefully.
I think we talked about it at the planning and steering committee, that was something we definitely need to start looking at. As you've heard from me multiple times, not having a CIP is quite exasperating. It's a pretty heavy lift. I think, I've already drafted some kind of outlines for kind of my vision, which is we have a capital improvement plan, treatment division, distribution division, and basically admin and grounds type of thing. Because, there's things like painting our buildings. We don't have any plan for that. There's a lot of stuff like that.
Replacing the roof.
Landscape.
Yeah.
There's just stuff like that that needs to be done. So my capacity to do that, like I am looking around on me and who else is going to be doing this. So I think one of the things, hopefully, we'll have a planning and steering committee meeting sometime September, October to really kind of kick off that.
Part of that, and I've had discussions with our general manager, looking at solar for both here and the water treatment. What can we get in the way of grants? Green grants, whatever, if we can get at least 80%, it begins to make sense. And I'd like the board, if possible, to look into the possibility of hydroelectric generation through the Milltown conduit. Having spoken with former Director Fuss, he had said the board was too busy to even consider those things. And I think we aren't that busy that we can't look to future things for that.
Oh, absolutely. And if that's, well,
I'm not saying next week, but
Right.
these are
I
things
mean-
that we need to plug in.
sure, but it's not us doing the plugging, it's Paul doing the
I
plugging.
understand.
So it's, which is the, that's the thing, the priority list. I think he's probably checked a few things off on his list, but
But there's a possibility of going, is it the rural water agency, whatever, that we no longer
Yeah,
might have
there
grants
is, as the board knows, in our budget, I had suggested we look at potentially joining CSDA, which is the California Special Districts Association. They have some services that we could potentially use. I haven't really done much on that currently. There's also the California Rural Water Association that is very helpful for a lot of us rural water districts, and they have circuit riders that are employed. They also do training for operators and other things like that. And I had one of their folks reach out to me to come and take a look, site survey, and see if they could do a solar project and find grants for us and all that kind of stuff. So there's those kind of things. But we don't want to be tied into one thing. We want to see what's best for the district. And
Beverly?
yes.
Channel 7 News yesterday showed the results from the Board of Supervisors meeting in Ione. People are starting to approach the board regarding the allotments that were paid out by PG&E through the district attorney's office. And one of the main things they talked about yesterday was the fire hydrant. I can't talk.
They want one.
They were promised a fire hydrant a long time ago through our water district. And I know our pipeline goes way past, because I've been to yard sales, and those people way out there have Clear Creek Community Service District water, so it shouldn't be that big of a problem to give them a fire hydrant. But, I know we provide water for the school, so why not put a fire hydrant over there? And,
If they'll pay for the costs.
well, they're
If it's
trying to get an allotment out of the district attorney on that settlement. They should have received it a long time ago.
No, she's got it, it's just go to her pet peeve project.
I know, but that's bad, and it should never have been allowed. I don't know why in the world she's administering all those funds, that's a lot of money. But, now they're trying to do it through the board of supervisor meetings, and maybe they might be successful. I'll find out more tomorrow at the farmer's market, because they always have a booth out there, a fundraiser booth.
So the supervisor meetings have been a little wild the last couple weeks. So I got a link from Chris, and, I guess they went through their board, meet, their minutes and their activities report. And Tim Garman came up saying he got a letter from some concerned citizen or something, saying that they wanted a fire hydrant out there, and then all of a sudden, he said he contacted her, and then when he talked to the people, it ended up sounding like some kind of conspiracy that we're going to take over their water district out there. So, you guys need to meet with IGO direct and say, hey, we just want to provide you a fire hydrant, we don't want to take your whole district away or whatever, but that's the way this, I don't know if you guys can reach out and talk to Tim Garman yourself, saying that, hey, we're not trying to take over your district, we'd like to, we've got a water.
Well, their district should contact Paul.
They contacted Kevin Clear Creek years ago about putting in that fire hydrant.
Yeah, but Sandy, that's up to, that issue is up to
But
that board to
there's some
contact
kind of-
our district.
There's some kind of political thing going now where,
The problem was our mismanagement here.
so they're going into the board asking for a fire hydrant just for their school, because, the whole town burned down, and they want a fire hydrant where the kids are going to school at. And, all the money is going to some pet,
$7 million.
program that, some gal or all her friends are on the board, right? And so, the district is now kind of auditing where this money goes, it's saying that there should be more money going to the community. So there was a letter that was generated to Tim Garland about a fire hydrant, and he was saying that, it ended up being kind of a ploy that the people were thinking we're just trying to take their district. That's what he said during the meeting.
They've always
What's the
been
last
really
name you said,
guarded
Tim?
when it comes to
Garmin.
Rainbow Lake.
Garmin?
So if you can contact Tim Garman and just say, if you guys need we supply the water to the school, if you wanna, if you guys got some money, we can put a fire hydrant there, that's all we probably want to tell them.
That's something that our general manager has actually been, met with their board, introduced himself, and we've had some discussions about the situation, and we're looking for a way to mutually benefit each other.
Yeah, but I don't know if something's been mentioned, that they think we wanna incorporate them.
No, that's because of bridges that were burnt by prior management,
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
but that's a
Because
long
we
time
owned
ago.
Rainbow Lake at one time.
Yep.
Our water district owned it.
Well, it was actually only a couple of years ago, because when Murray was still on the board, that they were meeting with IGO, they were meeting behind it, the RCAC and state people and,
Skip.
Yep,
yeah, and the current board put a kibosh to that, saying, no, we don't want to, take over IGO, because they would have gotten money. They would have gotten a lot more money
consolidation.
to consolidate it, so.
Well, I just wanted to pass that out, just in case, because
Well,
they,
Thank
I
you.
think they're, I
Thank
think
you,
they are gonna
Sandy.
get some money.
thank you, Sandy. Very easy answer. When the fire district approaches us for a fire hydrant, we will then estimate what it is will cost, and we'll give that to them, and they'll have to fund it.
Can I pass that information out tomorrow?
Sure.
Thanks.
Not gonna deal with we're not gonna, we send water to the school. The school and the fire district want a fire hydrant, and they wanna use ZOG fire money, then they should
Be able to.
send us a letter and say they wanna do it. We don't need to deal with the district. We don't,
Or the supervisor.
no, none of those.
No.
But that's what they're doing, they're going to the board of supervisors through Tim Ryan.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Well, we can cut him.
Okay.
Remember,
So new
more hands
director,
in the pot, less getting done.
new director Logan, do you have any comments this evening?
Well,
Yes,
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you very much for taking the time to hear me out. Very pleased to be part of this group, looking forward to learning as much as I can.
You don't know that one yet.
Well, I said learn as much as I
You
can.
got it.
I
A little
learned
taste
as
of
much
it
as I
tonight.
can about you. No, it's overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it will take to become fluent in it. The three of you are very impressive at this point, but I look forward to this discussion, so thank you very much.
Well, we expect you to get up to speed tomorrow.
Just make sure that you've got all of our contacts, because that's helpful in calling and talking to people about different things, so.
And there's training that needs to be done, but you've got a year to do it, I would wait.
Okay.
You'll have annual reporting in April to the county. I don't know if we should be doing that, or if we should turn it over to our general manager to get him started on some of those things.
Oh, yeah, he needs to, yeah, you need to contact the office and they'll get you set up.
Since you paid to be here, we need that.
And get used to these long meetings.
Well.
They're gonna get better.
They are.
Maybe.
When there've been so many problems for so many years, it takes a long time to clean it up.
That's something that's been very apparent, just in a couple hours I think like that. It must have been a war, in the past year. to
Well, all
get to
three
this.
of us, four of us with Terry, were on the Happy Valley community. And so we all fought for a long time before we ever got here.
So
We
were you
might be
here?
meeting tomorrow, I'm not sure.
Yeah, are you having an HVCC tomorrow?
I'm gonna double check with Jackie.
I don't think so, cause that, they almost burned that freaking place down. How do you think that fire started behind there? How do you think the fire started behind there? Think about it. They went out and had a smoke break. They had a whole crew of people out there.
MGE, of course,
No, it wasn't MGE.
MGE was
Yeah,
there?
PG&E was there.
Rented the building for public safety shut down.
Oh my
They didn't shut down, but they kept all their people out there, and they're out there on their smoke break and dropped a cigarette.
Was that it? Is that what?
That had to be it.
He's speculating.
Well, the
But they had
helicopter
two
was
security guards
low and
there
over my
overnight.
property.
Well, we need to.
They burnt they almost burnt the trailer park down. If they didn't cut that
Yes.
film down, that grass down,
I make a motion we adjourn.
I second it.
At 8:41, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.